The Galactic Council chamber stood at the heart of Azareth Prime, the political capital of the known universe. Built from luminous obsidian and suspended over a pulsar's gravity well, it was an architectural marvel, a symbol of unity among the stars. But for Admiral Daniel Grayson, it was a den of liars. Humanity had bled for the Council, fought their wars, died in battles not their own. And tonight, in this grand hall filled with alien delegates and their smug, self-important voices, the Council was about to throw humanity to the wolves. The verdict? The Supreme Chancellor, a towering Zethary with shimmering golden scales, stood in the center of the chamber. His multifaceted eyes scanned the gathered representatives, his voice smooth as silk but laced with venom. The motion has been reviewed, he declared, and the Council has reached a decision. Grayson already knew what was coming. Humanity had become too powerful, too unpredictable. The other races had whispered it for years. They are too dangerous. They spread too quickly. Their minds do not break like ours. And so the Council had voted against humanity. Effective immediately, the Sol system is no longer recognized as a protected member of the Galactic Accord. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Some delegates feigned shock. Others hid smirks. Grayson remained stone-faced. Furthermore, the Chancellor continued, all human colonies, fleets, and assets will be considered neutral territory. Any species may lay claim to them as they see fit. A death sentence. An open invitation for every pirate fleet, warlord, and power-hungry empire to tear humanity apart. Grayson's fists clenched. You bastards. The Chancellor barely glanced at him. Your people will surrender peacefully, Admiral. There is no reason for bloodshed. Grayson took a slow breath. That's where you're wrong. Because what the Council had just done was declare war. The escape. The Council chamber erupted into chaos as human representatives protested, pleaded, and screamed. Grayson did none of those things. Instead, he activated the emergency beacon implanted in his wrist. A silent signal. A single word. Execute. He turned and walked out, ignoring the shouting, the panic, the guards surging forward to arrest him. They were too slow. Because the moment Grayson stepped onto the skybridge leading away from the chamber, the human war fleet decloaked over Azareth Prime. And hell followed. The fall of Azareth Prime. The orbital defenses never stood a chance. Humanity had always been underestimated, seen as lesser, a race of brutes who charged headfirst into battle. What the Council had never realized was that humanity had been holding back. Until now. Now, human stealth technology revealed itself as entire dreadnoughts materialized out of nowhere. Now, human cyber warfare turned the planetary shields against their own generators. Now, human ingenuity showed the universe why Earth had survived against all odds. And as Azareth Prime's skies burned, Grayson calmly stepped onto his personal shuttle, watching the city below descend into chaos. His pilot, Lieutenant Rika Volkov, glanced back. Admiral, orders? Grayson's voice was cold as iron. We take the counselors alive. Because this wasn't just a battle. This was the beginning of a reckoning. The skies of Azareth Prime were no longer a beacon of unity. They were a graveyard. Fires raged across the planetary capital as warships fell from orbit, their burning husks crashing into the once pristine metropolis. The Galactic Council's security forces, arrogant and complacent, were crumbling. And humanity's vengeance had only just begun. The Councilor's flight. Deep beneath the surface, in a hidden bunker beneath the Hall of Concordance, the surviving Council members huddled together in terror. Supreme Chancellor Velos of Zether clutched the edges of a holodeble, his golden scales dulled with fear. His usual air of superiority was gone. This is impossible, he hissed. The humans, how did they? They were prepared. The voice came from High Minister Kalsur of the Threx Dominion, a six-eyed, insectoid diplomat whose species had ruled the outer sectors with an iron grip. Now his mandibles trembled. Across the table, Admiral Kalas of the ROH Alliance slammed his armored fist against the console. Our fleets were superior. We had the numbers. And yet, came a cold voice, you are here. Running. The room fell silent. The voice belonged to Grand Minister Kesril, a member of the enigmatic Shulvaran Collective, a race of psychic strategists. He sat motionless, his violet eyes glowing with unreadable thoughts. You all made the same mistake, he said quietly. You assumed the humans were still beneath us. You assumed they would kneel. His gaze turned sharp. But humans do not kneel. They burn. The Supreme Chancellor clenched his jaw. We must leave this world. Now. With a flick of his clawed fingers, he activated the Emergency Council Exodus Protocol. Somewhere deep in the bunker, hidden docking bays rumbled to life. A dozen Black Ops stealth cruisers powered up, ships built for escape, not war. But even as the counselors rushed to board them, one thought hung in the air like smoke. Would humanity let them run? The wrath of Earth. From the bridge of the HSS Retribution, Admiral Grayson stood with arms crossed, his sharp blue eyes scanning the battlefield. Below, Azareth Prime was dying. But he had no intention of wiping it out. Humanity was not here for slaughter. They were here for justice. Status report, he ordered. Lieutenant Rika Volkov's voice was crisp. Planetary defenses neutralized. Resistance is crumbling. The Council's palace has been breached, but the main targets have gone dark. Grayson exhaled slowly. Of course. The cowards wouldn't fight. They would run. Locate their escape ships. Volkov smirked. Already did. A new hologram flared to life, 12 sleek black vessels racing through underground launch tunnels. Grayson allowed himself a small smile. They thought stealth would save them. They forgot who gave them stealth technology in the first place. Patch me through to all captains, Grayson ordered. A moment later the command network connected. All ships, initiate the Wolf Protocol. And across the human fleet the hunters moved. The chase through the void. The 12 Council ships launched from Azareth Prime, streaking into the void at full speed. Their destination? Unknown. Their goal? Survive. Inside the lead ship, Supreme Chancellor Velos clawed at his console, frantically inputting jump coordinates. We must reach the edge of Council space. Once we're beyond the rift, we can regroup. But as they reached open space, something went terribly wrong. One by one their ships began to fail. Navigation systems scrambled. Engines flickered. Their stealth technology, which should have hidden them from all sensors, suddenly shut down. Panic spread through the fleet. What's happening? And then, the first human warship decloaked. Then another. And another. Within seconds the 12 Council vessels were surrounded. Like prey caught in a trap. The end of running. The Supreme Chancellor's throat went dry as his comms crackled to life. And then, Admiral Grayson's voice filled the cockpit. Running so soon, Chancellor? Velos turned pale. This is madness. You have no right. Grayson's tone was ice. We had every right when we bled for your wars. When we died in your battles. When we lifted your broken empires back onto their feet. His voice hardened. But you threw us away. Betrayed us. Hunted us. There was a long pause. Then, now it's our turn. The human warships activated their weapons. The Galactic Counselors had nowhere left to run. The vast void of space, once a realm of endless possibilities, had become a trap. 12 Counselor escape ships, once considered the pinnacle of stealth and technology, hung helplessly in the black expanse. Their cloaking fields had failed, their engines were crippled, and their communications were being jammed. Surrounding them were 24 human warships, sleek, predatory machines of war, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen deployed before. It was as if humanity had been hiding its true strength all along. A fool's resistance. Inside his escape vessel, Supreme Chancellor Velos was frozen, his clawed fingers trembling over the ship's controls. We cannot be caught. We are the rulers of the stars. His eyes darted to Admiral Callas of the Arwoich Alliance, the only Council member who still had a soldier's presence. Callas straightened. His reptilian scales bristled. We do not surrender. Velos hissed. Then what do you propose, Admiral? Callas narrowed his cold yellow eyes. We fight. The Council had been cowards their entire existence. But Callas was a warrior. If this was to be their end, he would not die begging. He activated his ship's internal comms. All vessels prepare to engage. We will not be humiliated by these. Weapons systems offline, a mechanical voice interrupted. Callas' blood ran cold. What? Weapons systems offline. He frantically scanned his screens. How? Then a new signal flashed onto their displays. It wasn't an attack. It was a message from the human fleet. The words burned onto every screen in the Council ships. You have already lost. Callas' chest tightened. Humanity wasn't just fighting them. Humanity had already hacked them. Their fleets. Their defenses. Their weapons. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. The truth of humanity's power. In the command bridge of the HSS Retribution, Admiral Grayson watched the once mighty galactic counselors squirm. They still didn't understand. They still thought humanity was what it used to be. But the moment the Council betrayed Earth, humanity had let go of its shackles. They had advanced in ways no one could have predicted. For centuries, humanity had been forced to limit itself. The Council had kept human technology suppressed, afraid of how quickly they learned, how ruthlessly they adapted. What they didn't realize was that humans had been playing along, pretending, hiding their real advancements, because they had known. One day this moment would come. And when it did, they would be ready. "Sir," Lieutenant Volkov said, "their weapon systems are dead. Their navigation is locked. They are at our mercy." Grayson nodded. Then he opened the comms. "Supreme Chancellor Velos," he said, his voice like steel. "You are not in control anymore. Your council is finished. Your rule is over. Now you answer to us." The Supreme Chancellor's face appeared on the holo display. His golden scales had lost their shine. His eyes, once filled with arrogance, were wide with fear. "Please," he whispered. "We can negotiate." Grayson's expression didn't change. "Negotiate." He leaned forward. "The time for negotiations ended when you signed humanity's death sentence. Now you live, or die, by our judgment." Velo's breath hitched. "You wouldn't dare. You need us." The Council kept order. "If we fall, there will be chaos." Grayson's voice was ice. "Good." And with that he ended the transmission. The Council's last plea. In the escape vessel, Supreme Chancellor Velos collapsed into his chair. Despair clawed at his throat. This was the end. Humanity wasn't interested in talking anymore. Then Kesril of the Shulvaran Collective finally spoke. The psychic alien, usually composed and calculating, had been silent during the entire battle. But now, his glowing violet eyes turned to the Supreme Chancellor. "We have one last option," he said. Velos frowned. "What?" Kesril's expression was unreadable. "I have seen into the human mind. I know what they truly fear." Velo's breath caught. "And?" Kesril leaned in. "We surrender." The Council's broadcast. Minutes later, a transmission was sent across the human fleet. A single message. "We surrender. We accept all terms. We recognize humanity as the rightful rulers of the galaxy." On the HSS Retribution, Admiral Grayson stared at the message. Lieutenant Volkov smirked. "Oh, they're scared now." Grayson's eyes narrowed. "Too easy. This wasn't just surrender. This was a trick. And whatever the Council was planning, it was something that even terrified them." The transmission had been sent. The Galactic Council, the once mighty rulers of the known universe, had surrendered. But Admiral Grayson wasn't buying it. Standing on the bridge of the HSS Retribution, he watched the data scroll across his screen. Every Council ship was dead in the water, unable to move, fight, or escape. And yet, something about their surrender felt wrong. Too sudden. Too desperate. "Admiral," Lieutenant Volkov muttered beside him, her fingers tapping across her console. "I don't like this." Grayson didn't look away from the screen. "Neither do I." The Council wasn't just giving up. They were hiding something. The secret of the Council's power. On the Council's main escape ship, Supreme Chancellor Velos watched the human fleet in silence. The others on the bridge were terrified, except for Kesril of the Shulvaran Collective. The psychic alien sat still, his violet eyes glowing faintly. His mind was somewhere else. Finally he exhaled. "It is done." Velos swallowed. "You're certain?" Kesril's eyes flickered toward him. "They will hesitate. They will doubt. That is all we need." Velos' claws clenched. Because they weren't truly surrendering. They were stalling. Stalling until the failsafe activated. The Doomsday Protocol. The failsafe was the Council's last secret. A hidden contingency, buried in the oldest codes of the galaxy. A desperate measure never meant to be used. If the Council ever fell, if humanity ever became too powerful, the failsafe would ensure no one ruled the galaxy. Because it would wipe out everything. A chain reaction across every star system, targeting hyperlanes, planetary cores, artificial gravity wells, every single structure that held civilization together. If the Council died, the galaxy died with them. Velos gritted his teeth. They forced our hand. And now humanity would pay the price. Humanity's response. Admiral Grayson felt it before he saw it. A ripple across the void. A subtle shift in the fabric of space itself. Then alarms exploded across the bridge. "Sir." Volkov barked. "Something's happening." The stars themselves flickered. Grayson's blood went cold. What the hell did they do? Volkov's hands flew over her console. It's a cascading system failure, gravitational anchors destabilizing, wormhole networks collapsing. Then she froze. Her face went pale. Sir, she whispered. It's a kill switch. Grayson's stomach turned to stone. A kill switch for the entire galaxy. The human counterattack. Grayson exhaled sharply. Override it. Volkov's hands blurred. Trying. It's buried in deep council code. Wait. No. Not council code. She stopped typing. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Sir, it's human. Grayson's eyes snapped to her. What? Volkov swallowed. The council didn't build this failsafe. Then who did? Grayson demanded. Her fingers flew across the console. Data streamed past, codes, encryption, impossibly ancient directives. Then she stopped. Her voice was barely audible. Us. Grayson's breath caught. Not the council. Not the enemy. Humanity. The truth buried in the stars. Grayson's heart pounded. This was impossible. The failsafe was older than the council itself. Older than any known civilization. And yet there it was. A human override code. A signature buried deep in the ancient network. A name. Project Elysium. The realization struck him like a warhammer. Humanity hadn't just been a part of the galaxy's history. They had written it. The final revelation. Grayson's voice was sharp. Unlock it. Volkov hesitated. Sir, if I do this. Do it. Her fingers tapped once. And the universe changed. The failsafe shut down. The kill switch vanished. And in its place, new data unlocked itself. Blueprints. Star charts. Entire civilizations long erased from history. The truth poured in. Humanity had been here before. Not as explorers. Not as conquerors. But as the first. The origin of everything. They had built the council's worlds. Designed their hyperlanes. Seeded the stars with life itself. Then, for reasons lost to time, they had vanished. And now they had returned. The final judgment. Supreme Chancellor Velo's ship trembled as he realized the truth. No, he whispered. Humanity hadn't been a young race. They had been asleep. And now that they were awake, nothing would stop them. Admiral Grayson opened the fleet-wide comms. His voice was calm. Absolute. The council is over. He let the words settle. Then with a final command he sealed their fate. Burn it down. And the human fleet descended. The rise of the firstborn. The Galactic Council fell that day. Not in battle. Not in negotiations. But because they had tried to erase something that could never be erased. Humanity. The firstborn of the stars. And as the council worlds burned, as their fleets crumbled, as their history was rewritten, one truth became clear. The galaxy no longer belonged to the council. It belonged to the firstborn. It belonged to humanity. Fire enjoyed the story? Subscribe to the Void Narratives for more epic sci-fi. Rocket.